Won't you join me today? I just have some cleanup to do, which has to happen all of the time in a pantry this size. And I wanted to share with you my top 10 baking items. If I had to recreate this pantry again, where would I start? What would be the top 10 first baking things I would buy? Welcome to Modern Homestead Alaska. We are Erin and Jessica Milnes. We are building a modern homestead outside of Wasilla, Alaska, with the help of 3 of our children. Our second son, Caleb, our daughter, Cody Ann, and the youngest of our family, Wyatt, along with our 3 dogs, Tipper and Daisy, and the newest addition, Roberto. I literally spilled flour. Can you see that? Everywhere. And that's just the nature of the beast of having my grains to grind them in here. I'm not complaining. Aaron might be. He's like, what the heck happened? Yeah, I spilled a bunch of flour in here. So I just have to constantly stay on top of cleaning out the pantry. And when we do these conversations of these kind of top 10s, where would I start? What is my pantry actually like? What does it involve? All of these different conversations, I don't want you to leave here thinking that it's some magic world and that it's always spotless and it's always perfect, and it's because it's just simply not. That's not the truth. This is a super hard working room, which means laundry is dragged through here. I'm trying to put laundry soap in these containers and put things away and clean as we go, and then constantly making a list of what needs to be purchased and replaced. Like Wyatt's been doing a bunch of baking, so I'm looking in here and there is just, okay, this is an Aaron thing. The lid's not even on it. This is pears. He just stands here and eats dried fruit or nuts or whatever. And so nothing is ever perfect. Never believe that out of me or anyone else. It's never perfect, but we're going to pull it together and then I'm going to share with you that list. So as I'm cleaning, I just really wanted to say thank you to those of you who have left some comments and ideas for upcoming videos of top 10 lists of things that you would like me to cover. And before we get too deep in this video, if I have not already covered a top 10 list of things, pantry, prepping, food storage, those sort of things, if I haven't covered your list, leave it in the comment section below. And I am kind of making lists of the things you guys would like me to comment on and share with you. It's still so heavy, I can't pick it up. This empty Kirkland laundry detergent bucket, I think, is going to be a better storage for this OxyClean. If I could get the bag. Also, right before we jump into the list, we'll be there in just a second, I assure you. I did want to let you know that we have been using this Azure laundry soap and the OxyClean, and every member of our family is just really, really happy with the quality, the way it all smells, and the way that it's cleaning. So 110%, I would recommend Azure's laundry soap. If you can see well, we are in the baking section of the pantry, and we're going to talk top 10s in just baking. If you have never baked, you are new to baking, and you are starting your pantry for the first time, I'm basing this off of being an experienced baker. What are the first 10 things I would buy, put them in my pantry in order to do the most amount of baking that we can do? When I was making this, I was struggling a little bit because my top 10 food storage prep items, many of them are on here because they're such simple baking items. But let's pretend, for sake of this video, that we're speaking to someone that is moving out for the very first time. They don't know what to get. They don't know what items would even be in the baking section. Sure, they can go to Walmart or their local store and just kind of rummage through and try and figure out what they need, but they're probably going to be missing some items. So that's what we're addressing, is if I had moved here to Alaska again, started from absolute scratch, there's nothing in my pantry, a house had burnt down, any of those things, what would be the first 10 things that I would go to the store and buy for baking? I'm going to share that now. We are going to start with sugars. So I would do 3 sugars in my baking section. I'm just going to include them as one item. So sugars. We're going to do a bag of powdered sugar. I don't keep a ton of this on hand, and this is certainly not in my long-term storage. However, I would get a bag of white powdered sugar. I would get a bag of white sugar. I like organic. You could get the Walmart or, you know, off-brand, whatever it is. And then I would do a bag of brown sugar. Now my sugars, just so you know, you're sitting on one of them. They're in these, for the most part, these 2-gallon tubs in our pantry because of the amount of baking that we do. If you're a brand new baker, I am not going to recommend a 2-gallon bucket of brown sugar or regular sugar. Just get yourself that regular size bag of sugar. I think they're 10 pounds, 1 bag of brown sugar, and 1 bag of powdered sugar. Let's move on to item number 2. Because I'm gonna buy all 10 of these items in my very first shopping trip there. These are not in a particular order. The next thing, just looking through the pantry and saying, here is what I would get. Some sort of thickener. I have arrowroot powder here. I also have cornstarch someplace. You can use flour as a thickener if you wanted to X either one of those. But I really think that they're important, especially like gravies and a lot of different things. But there's a lot of cookie recipes that call for things like cornstarch. So cornstarch or arrowroot powder, I'm going to highly recommend a thickener in your baking section. The number 3 thing I'm going to recommend is cocoa powder. I keep on hand 2 kinds of cocoa powder. One is a straight cocoa powder, and then for any, like, kind of, I'll take it out here for you. Some specialty cooking, those sort of things, they have a special dark chocolate cocoa powder. I don't care which one you get. I'm not recommending off the bat that you start diversifying in cocoa powders, but I do keep 2 different cocoa powders myself in stock. Therefore, I am highly recommending cocoa powder. We blow through it. We were just talking about this. Remember when I filled this up? If you're a long time here on the channel, we literally just filled that. So we're going to do cocoa powder as our number 3 pantry must-have. Do we want in the baking section, do we want to include 2 things as one? We'll get back to those 2 things. Well, I kind of think about it. Okay, I'm digging out here. Baking soda. Baking soda is a must. We need this for all sorts of baking. We can use it as a cleaning product. It can do a lot of double duty. But if I'm starting a pantry, I'm just going to get myself that little box that, or maybe it's in a container. I'm going to immediately move it out of the box into a mason jar or something with a lid. Recycle the jar. I don't care how you do it. Baking soda absorbs scents and smells and odors and moisture and all the things that are in your environment that you do not want in your cooking. So store your baking soda separately in a glass container with a airtight lid. Okay, so baking soda. Baking powder is the next thing on our list. Baking powder and baking soda are oftentimes used together in simple baking. However, they are not the same thing. I'm gonna tell you to get the little bitty container of baking powder if you're new to this whole game, because baking powder, unlike many of the other things, it has a short expiration on it. So do not buy more than you're going to use in the very first, whatever the expiration on yours is, 6 months to a year, something like that. It does go bad, and you'll know it when your pancakes don't fluff up or your waffles or what have you. So get yourself a good small container of baking powder. Let's talk flour. This entire bottom here is grains that I mill that we just cleaned up into flours. Not a recommendation for that ground floor starting out. Get yourself an all-purpose flour. Most of the recipes here, especially in the US, are written based on an all-purpose flour. You may come across recipes that are very particular and they call for maybe a bread flour or something like that. There isn't enough difference if you are making just a simple, no-knead loaf of bread for the first time. You don't need to go out and buy bread flour. I'm telling you that as someone that has bread flour. That is not a must. What is a must is that basic all-purpose flour, the best quality that you can get your hands on. I want you to pop it in the freezer. We've already shared those horror stories. And then I want you to just be using some plain all-purpose flour and then work yourself into different flours. I don't keep my salt in this section. That's okay. You can keep your salt in whatever section you want, because we're of course going to talk seasonings and spices and all of these different things in upcoming videos. But to bake, you have to have salt. So I do buy, and it's in the kitchen, it's one, it would be the, you know, the sugar that has the little girl on it with the dog. It's an iodized, just table salt, not sugar. Salt. That's what we're talking about. It's an iodized salt. It's such a super fine grain salt. That is fine. If you are just beginning out, get yourself a really fine grain salt, because what we don't want to do is bite into that chocolate chip or that sugar cookie and get a big granule of like a sea salt that wasn't ground down properly. We're not looking for taking over the baking world and changing it in that. We're looking to provide for ourselves and our family some of the most basic cooked items in our home, and just a plain salt. Again, I'm going to recommend, if you bring that home in that cardboard container, I want you to put the salt in something that is an airtight, because salt, like baking soda, will absorb things from the environment. It will get clumpy, and if you're storing it for a long time in that cardboard, the cardboard does go bad. So no matter how you store your salt, I'm going to have you bring it home and put it in something glass. But salt, top of the list. The next item on the list, I'm going to let you play around with it. I'm going to let you decide. In fact, I might even take you up here and show you something. We have, so I'm too short to see this. We have chocolates up here. These are melting candy chocolates. These are bars. These are not a candy bar that you would eat. These are used for baking. Then we move down here to what everyone's probably thinking, and we have mini chocolate chips, and we have dark chocolate chips, and we have white chocolate chips, and we have empty jars. If we can find, we have, oh, here we go. These are mint chocolates, and then there's some butterscotch ones back there. I'm gonna recommend get yourself a couple of bags or a couple of boxes, just a couple of different things in that chocolate section right there. Get yourself some chocolate for your baking section. I had to run to the kitchen and grab some stuff for the next section. This is how I keep my spices. I'm going to recommend just get yourself some tiny spices that are generally used in baking. Pumpkin pie spice can make it to where maybe you don't have to get the allspice, the nutmeg, the clove, all of those different things. Maybe you go with kind of a rounded spice such as pumpkin pie. Cinnamon, I think, is a must. Absolutely have to have cinnamon on the list of spices. But I think, in my opinion, if you did a pumpkin pie spice, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, allspice, maybe ginger, you could include that in your baking section. I really think you could tackle a lot of things, everything from cookies to cakes and so on, and really not need an extensive amount of spices for baking beyond that. We do keep a ton of different spices in our house, but we do a massive amount of baking. So if someone said, okay, you get 5 items, I probably wouldn't get the pumpkin pie spice if I got 5 spices as my, that's what my budget would allow. I would get cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, cloves, ginger. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that would be 5. So that is what I would do for my 5. But if you can do the 6th one, the pumpkin pie spice is amazing. I put it on my coffee all of the time, and so I use it constantly. So get yourself an array of just a couple of very, very simple, direct, straightforward spices that you hear all the time in baking terms. Maybe your grandmother, mother's kitchen, something like that. So get yourself a few spices. The next item I'm going to recommend is vanilla extract. If you can stretch it to vanilla and almond extract, I'm going to highly recommend that. But if you cannot, just start with a good quality, long expiration vanilla extract. You're really, really going to need that. You're going to thank me later when you add that. And I know those of you that are watching this are like, these are so basic. And that is the whole point, is having a conversation with those that are really just, where do I start baking at? What do I need? What could I go to the store and get? So you'll find this typed out in the description box, and then I put the items across the screen. Make yourself a list of the top 10 things that you would need to do some basic baking. Baking is going to require some fats. So down here, I have everything. We're not here to have a debate of what's the most healthy. I have everything from palm fruit shortening, coconut oil, I have avocado oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, I have some coconut butter, I have some lard. Let's see what's over there. Those are vinegars. So yeah, get yourself some fat, some good neutral cooking oil or coconut oil, or some sort of like palm fruit shortening, something like that, whatever you're most comfortable in having in your kitchen. You've got to have the fats in order to bake. Butter would be included in this. I love butter. I cook with butter more than I cook with anything else. And so butter is definitely in this category. And maybe you have 2 or 3 things. Maybe you have just a good neutral flavored oil and some butter, and you skip all of the rest of them. I'm totally cool with that too. However you want to do it, get yourself some good fats in the kitchen. Well, there I did it again. It's 11 items. So let's just say maybe the chocolate is the bonus item because you already have the cocoa, however you want to do it. So those would be my top items if I had to start someone's pantry from scratch or my own. Those are the first 10 things I would go to Walmart or my local grocery store. Maybe not Costco size, but I would just begin small if you're new to baking, and I would begin with those items. Let me know, what did you think of my list in the comment section. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. When you ring the bell, you get notifications. Thumbs up and comments all help our channel to grow. I greatly appreciate you sticking around to the end, and I look forward to sharing more about my pantry, our life here on our homestead, and all that it encompasses in upcoming videos with you all. Until then, I bid you adieu, and I'll see you in the next video.